British singer-songwriter MIKA has ended his tour in China due to a serious voice condition. The final legs in Shenzhen and Hong Kong on June 1st and the 3rd are cancelled as MIKA rests his vocal cord following a doctor's advice. However, our reporter Mu Fangzhou spent some time with MIKA before his Beijing concert last Friday evening, and despite feeling unwell, MIKA talked a lot about his upcoming new album, his response to Chris Lee's Why Me, as well as embracing different cultures.
MIKA is widely known in China for his playful melodies and colorful arrangements, many compared to Elton John and Freddie Mercury, with popular works including Grace Kelly, Lollipop, and We Are Golden. The singer said he'd waited years to come and perform in China. You have announced a new album called No Place in Heaven coming in June. Can you elaborate on the thoughts and inspirations behind this record?
It's strange because it's very naturalistic, so it's really a singer-songwriter album, but that said, it's full of color, full of melody, full of a lot of flamboyance and a huge sense of humor, especially in the lyrics. So there's this real playful quality to it. Sound-wise, I wanted it to be, I didn't want it to be too electronic, and I wanted an album that was made with the things that I had around me that I know how to play. As opposed to kind of building up this complicated sound and hiding almost my personality or hiding behind production or behind programming or behind too many sounds. It's funny because when you think of that kind of pop music, it's hard to imagine that kind of credible, organic singer-songwriter stuff being done with really joyful pop melodies. Whereas when you think of albums in the 70s, like early Elton John, for example, and Billy Joel and all that stuff, that was really how pop albums were made. They were singer-songwriter albums, but they were really melodic and extremely pop. That's what I wanted.
In the first two albums of yours, people were fascinated by the bright colors and the playful melodies. It's like the Technicolor aesthetic. But did you worry at the time that you may have been stuck in this candy-sweet, cartoonish character forever?
It worried me a little bit, but not too much. Because I think that there's something that anyone who really knows my music understands. That there's always this mixture between the very bright and the very dark. So often you'll get my music which sounds super joyful and really fun, and then you'll get these lyrics that are much darker and much more serious and very, very personal. It's the combination of the crying and the dancing together that gives you something that's real. Because when you're too sad without any joy or hope, it's pointless. When you're too joyful without any of the real life kind of darkness or sadness or challenge, it's plastic. It's like Disneyland. When you mix them together, you have reality, and that's why it can suddenly become something that is more meaningful. In that, there was my kind of way out. There was a way of not being caught into some kind of stereotype or a cliche. At the same time, you never want to become a caricature or a comic book version of yourself. You have to break against yourself, come back around again. There's nothing more boring than someone who doesn't contradict themselves.
Well, I also read that you have contributed songwriting to several artists, including Madonna. So besides performing on stage, what's the drive behind your career as a songwriter?
It's funny because I'm a musician and I'm a singer, and I've been singing actually. I started off in opera. It all went on from there. Then I wrote songs and I got signed, and you know, I'm a songwriter, but I think that my world is so much a whole universe. There's the drawings, there's the characters, there's the lyrics, there's the live show, there's the illustrations, and also there's the songs I write for other people. I see everything that I do as part of the same story. Even if I'm writing for another artist, whether the artist is really famous or not, I see it as part of the same story. It's funny, there was a Chinese artist that I thought sang a cover of my song Lollipop, but in fact apparently she said it wasn't a cover, which I find very suspect because it sounds like a cover of my, it sounds like my song. But even when I heard that, I was like, oh, okay, I felt like a songwriter in that situation. I was like, oh, my aesthetic, my universe has continued and been carried forward, but even by somebody else, and it still has that signature that is made in my living room, you know, that thing that I create in my living room. I love it when it's kind of taken by another artist and turned into something else and taken to other places where I haven't even been, and to much bigger publics that I haven't even seen. So on the one hand, it's kind of like, you could look at it and be really frustrated and angry about it. On the other side of it, you could say it's pretty cool. The song was called Why Me?
You have been living in different countries and encountering different cultures. But does that experience make your life easier in the past 7 or 8 years as a touring musician?
It's funny, when you come from many different places, it can very easily destroy you. And it's funny, as we are in a world now, my generation is one that's very globalized. We don't live or work or have the same cultural references as our parents at all, more and more around the world, especially looking at China, how things are changing so fast. You can let that destroy you, or you can completely embrace it and say, okay, within that freedom comes the possibility to create an identity, and it provokes a lot of creativity. For me, coming from lots of different places forced me to build my own world and to free myself of any kind of sound, style, or particular fashion which is located in one place. I'm happy just being me. And as a result, this circus that is me can very easily travel around the world, and that's why my career is for a person who doesn't make extraordinarily commercial music, which I don't. I make kind of art pop records. They travel remarkably far. And I think it's simply because I don't come from one place. I've created a place that I can exist in, and that's my music and my aesthetic. I wouldn't be who I am if I didn't have the possibility of traveling everywhere to push my career and to play my music.